Hey, folks, it's Lindsey Huddleston back in the building. Another SPS Edge Show. It's going to be an exciting show, not because of the topics, because of the great people that we have with us. We have Mr. Terry McCord Jr., a great co-host, great intern, and we don't know what the future's going to be. I don't know. I got to renegotiate Terry's contract. Terry's getting ready to get out and get his own podcast started. I don't know, man. I'm trying to hold him back an extra year. You know what I'm saying? Try to hold him back. But anyway, I want to thank Coach Orlando Watkins doing a great job with the Northwestern Colts. But also with the city of Detroit, keeping things on task, keeping things together, especially with that big vaccine push that the city is going to be doing as we work to get better. But Terry, man, we got a heck of a show, and this has a great deal to do with your great producing work and putting this show together, and so many things to talk about. I'll just add a few. We're going to talk about Michigan State, both football and basketball. Since we last got together, they had a win over Notre Dame and a win over another school that has colors that are blue and white, being Duke. Just got off the phone. Just got off a press conference with Tom Izzo just a moment ago. We could talk about that a little bit, but we do have some footage from the Duke post-game press conference, which is really interesting talking to him. It was kind of emotional too. Also, next level recruiting. Mel Tucker said some great things in this press conference this week that I think is going to be really helpful for the recruiting trail. But he pretty much said, man, if you can't match up against a future NFL player, I don't know what I could do for you at Michigan State. And I get that. He said, because these guys that play here end up playing on Sunday. And then also talk about this big game coming up. And not just because it's a big game, because it's Michigan State and Ohio State. What do they say? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So because Ohio State and Michigan have this rivalry, there's no real bad blood between Michigan State and Ohio State. However, there's strong college playoff implications going on here. This is definitely a game that COVID is having an impact on. It's not an open and shut case. So many different things going on with Coach Day being out. We'll talk about that in a second. And then we get to talk about NBA basketball, along with the big NBA lineup on Christmas Day, and breaking news that Terry and I were talking about, the big signings with both LeBron James and Anthony Davis. We'll try to touch on that too. So we have a boatload of things to talk about on the show, but I'm excited because every topic is awesome within itself. So with that, I'll go to my most worthy co-host, Mr. Terry McCord. Terry, tell me what's going on, and let's get into this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing well. Just going over, watching the games, full of games being played. Last night, with that Baylor-Illinois game, I was up late watching that one. Gonzaga was playing, and I mean, just a lot of basketball, let alone Michigan State having two big wins. I think it's a great week to be a Spartan. They got a big game this upcoming week, so full of a lot. It makes it easy for content, especially for the show. I mean, with all these sports being thrown, NBA seems like every few minutes got an update about something that's eager to start up in a couple of weeks. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting these next couple of weeks with everything just playing at the same time. So it's gonna be
I
great.
know. It's like I almost forgot how much I love what I do to be able to sit down in front of the TV. And now I have more of a focus to kind of follow Big Ten teams, but then you have to follow a Gonzaga because you got to think about potential Final Four teams or the West Virginias of the world or the, Stanfords, Texas, all these teams showing their play. North Carolina playing a different kind of basketball compared to the tough season they had last season. So this is what I'm going to suggest. We'll just keep it a football basketball transition. We can start off with, I want to share some dialogue that Coach Tucker shared at this week's press conference leading up to Ohio State. We could definitely talk about the Ohio State game. I know you got some deep feelings about that. A true Scarlet fan. I remember last year when I went down there to Buckeye Country and saw the game with Michigan State. I got their program, and I knew the one person on the planet who was going to want that program. So I'm glad you got that. I got to get that to you. So what I'll do, Terry, give me your take, your outlook on this Michigan State Ohio State matchup that's going to take place on noon on Saturday. And while you're doing that, I'll work to bring up the question and comments I had with Coach Tucker today. So give us your overview of this Michigan State Ohio State game that's kicking off at 12 noon, and I'll be there at Spartan Stadium to report on that too.
I'm eager for this one. I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, with Ohio State coming up short with players coming up due to COVID testing, and Coach Day not being on the sideline, it's going to be interesting having Michigan State come off that big win that they had against Northwestern. I mean, are they going to come off fired and still keep it rolling, or are they going to fall short like they did against Iowa? I don't know. Ohio State's defense hasn't been playing too well either. I mean, Indiana kind of exposed their secondary. Penix had a great game our pass rush isn't too well for Ohio State. So, I mean, linebackers are kind of slow. My dad talks about it every week, so I know every week. But, it's going to be eager to see them match up against each other with Mel Tucker trying to bring this program back to where it used to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so funny, ironically, that they're playing Ohio State, which is always, a college football playoff team, always a team that's in the hunt for a national championship. But, always the sending guys to the league. Justin Fields and company, pretty much every year they got a first-round draft pick, somebody who's going to be playing on Sunday. So when we were in the press conference with Coach Tucker I want to say on Monday, these are his remarks. And let me shout out the Streets of Talking Podcast Network, too. Shout out my guys, Don Houston and Clarence Barbour, who are representing for the Streets is Watching Podcast Network. You can catch us there hearing this podcast on Saturdays and Sundays, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that'll be playing to a larger audience. We're thankful for that. But here we got Coach Tucker right here. Uno momento. It's a little delayed. So you'll hear his voice in a few minutes as this thing loads up.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Our next question will go to Lindsey Huddleston.
Thank you. Hey, Mel. Earlier you talked about the right player. Can you share in your experience what are some of the characteristics of the right player, especially when you have players that go up against an undefeated team that has some type of conference or title type contention? What are some of those characteristics of guys who can go up and deliver the upset for you?
You're talking about the type of player that's like that can win for you, or the type of player that we're looking for in our program.
Type of player you're looking for in your program in particular?
Yeah, first and foremost, like I said, the first day I got here, if you love football, I'm probably gonna like you a lot, and that's very important. Because football is not the easiest thing to prepare, to practice. It's not always fun. And it's a tough game, and, injuries are part of the game. There's a lot of pain and pressure involved day in and day out, and it's very competitive, and it's physical. So, you want guys who love the game, that love practice, that see value in practice, in strength conditioning, and nutrition. You shouldn't have to, that they're going to take advantage of the resources that we have. You shouldn't have to talk a guy into eating or resting or practicing hard or wanting to be out there. So first of all, you got to love the game. And then, second of all, outside of obviously academically, you need to be able to get a degree here and compete at a high level in the classroom. But, you have to be mentally tough. The mental aspect of the game is very important. You need to be able to, understand that, you're going to have to compete on the day in and day out basis. You're going to have to be able to handle harsh criticism, harsh constructive criticism. You're going to have to embrace, a culture of accountability, and wanting to be held accountable, and understand, that's part of a program where everybody's roles are clear and defined, and there is no gray, and it takes what it takes, and embrace that and want that, because that's a winning formula. We're looking for players like that, and we're looking for guys obviously who they want to be here at Michigan State. We want players that are playing here now that it's important to them that they play, that they're here. It's not that it's not so much that they're coming here for necessarily what we can do for them. They actually want to come here and play for the school. And want to leave a legacy. And it's important when they put that helmet on. It's important when they go into the locker room. It's important when they go into that stadium, for a home game. You want guys that want to understand, hey, this is what Spartan football is. I want to play this type of football for these types of coaches and this type of environment. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. You want guys, like that. Then obviously you want guys that that athletically, and from a skill set standpoint, and physically, from a stature and length and size, you want guys that can match up with, and win the one-on-ones, against the very best players in the country. You want that because at some point, if in fact our goal is to win a national championship and build a championship team that's relevant each and every year in that conversation, which is the goal, then in order to reach that goal, you have to have players that can win those one-on-one matchups against the very best players in the country, because that's what those teams have that are in that Final Four. That's what those teams have that are winning these leagues. They have lots of NFL players on their rosters. You can see it on draft day.
Got it. That's really helpful, Coach. Thanks, and good luck on Saturday.
Yep, thank you so much.
Yeah, Terry, I mean, right there, that was a mouthful, but, what I take, from that was his last comments. Like, look, man, if you come to Michigan State, you got to be able to compete in a one-on-one matchup with pros. You got to be able to compete with guys who go play on Sunday. And if I didn't have a good understanding, I have a better understanding now, and it gives me a greater appreciation. It's so easy for us to take for granted the Big Ten and Michigan State. People can say whatever they want to say about Michigan State basketball, Michigan State football, but you're right. The people they compete against in the Big Ten and on a national scale are people who end up playing at the next level. So if you're a potential recruit here, that has to be what your mindset is. What do you think about that, Terry?
No, I took, my takeaway from it was about similar, but mine was mostly about, the aspect of football being a 70-30 kind of game. I mean, because it's like 70 mental and 30 physical. I mean, he talked about it right from the get-go. He wants guys who want to play football. I mean, it's almost like I got a friend that plays Division I for Western Michigan right now. He was like, man, it feels like I signed my life away. He's like, I mean, he talking about the nutrition. I mean, we talking about study hours, meetings, position meetings, offense, defense meetings, practice. I mean, you gotta want to be there. And then, kind of throw not shade, but I mean, down the road at Michigan, man, there are times where it feels like they don't want to play. And you could just see how Coach Tucker is making that an emphasis, because it's important to get guys who understand the traditions at MSU, that want to be there, that want to get gritty and play hard and win games and have some pride. That's something that we, as things didn't go so well last year, we kind of didn't feel that pride, and he's bringing that back. And so it's important to see that, someone to value that, want to keep playing. And then the talent level, he understands that we want to get to where we want to compete for national championships. Right now, our goal is to try to compete in the Big Ten and win a Big Ten chip. And so he's like, there's building blocks to it. We got to build, we got to keep building. But the first step is the 3 to 4 years down the road. I mean, we saw that with Tom Allen in Indiana. Tom Allen's record at the time, he was 21. He was 21-20. I saw a stat before they played. I think it was Michigan State. I think it might have been after the Michigan State game. 21-20 in 4 seasons. I mean, it just goes to show that he finally has that one win to get him above 500 in 4 seasons, though. But we know, as we've seen, that they're heading to the top. And so it takes time. 3 to 4 years, you get new players and they start to adapt that culture.
No, you're excellent with that. Even with the reference to Indiana, they lose their quarterback. So look how things happen.
Right.
Injuries happen. Who's the next man that's going to step up? Will their season kind of go down the drain because of that? But I just think it's an eye-opener. And as much as we say we watch sports, at least for me, sometimes I have to be reminded of what it really takes. And here's the thing, man, no matter what sport you're in, once you get outside of Little League, man, even then, it's hard to win. It's hard to win. And taking winning for granted is something people should not do. So that's a great take on what's happening with football here at Michigan State. Like I said, I love to be able to be here and have a bird-eye view of the Mel Tucker era and what's going on. I see him as someone who's definitely going to change the culture. And Saturday should be a good game to tune into, because I would say with how well Michigan State played, how fearless they are right now, and with the potential unique challenges that Ohio State is going through, at this point, it's not open and shut. At this point, it's just not a wrap. At this point, it is not a wash. And I think so many people are used to just crowning certain teams just because. I mean, think about it. It's not like they're playing in the shoe where they got, the Buckeye fans there. And let me tell you something, man, real quick before we move on. I went to Ohio State last season, as I said, when I smuggled you back that, that player program. I smuggled it across state lines for you. But, man, let me tell you that atmosphere, it was a national championship atmosphere, Terry. I mean, I know you know, but from all the stadiums I've been in, the brief amount of stadiums I've been in last season, when I got to Ohio State, it was a show. So they have this expectation, but they don't have all that going for them now. And they're coming in to a team that's looking like, dude, we just beat an undefeated team. Like, we got just as many games as you do. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be something to see. So here's what I'm thinking. We got football all said and done, man. We got some basketball. We are in heaven, aren't we? So let's talk about Michigan State and their huge win over Notre Dame, first of all. When that game took place. And then, of course, they had the most recent win on Tuesday in Cameron. Did you get a chance to catch any of the Notre Dame game or the highlights or anything like that? What's your take on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a common theme between the two, is defense. I mean, MSU's defense came to play. I mean, Notre Dame is the typical great shooting team. They're going to hit shots. But, I mean, MSU held them to 35% field goal percentage and, 38 from three. I mean, MSU didn't really start off too well. Things was a little close, but then the one thing that clicked to me, man, was that 26-0 run. 17-0.
That happened. You texted me when that happened. Like, look,
yeah,
man, what's going on?
Like 17 to end the half, 9-0 to start. I mean, that's defense right there. I mean, that's locking in, led by my guy Rocket. I mean, who I think is the X factor that's gonna carry this team over. And we saw that on Tuesday. And so, I mean, he just brought the firepower to will them and to push them through the second half. And then, the first half, and then start off the second half, man, they came out doing the same thing. Tough defense, runouts. Izzo, with his teams in the past and like from now, constant runouts. Let's play defense, push the ball in transition. You saw with Tillman and Nick Ward even back then, block to block, head to Cassius, be gone. And then Rocky is like kind of taking that Cassius role where he's hitting that outlet box and he's looking for Langford, looking for Henry streaking down that left side, looking for Hauser trailing. Now he's in that kind of like that Tillman spot. He's leaking down. And then you got, other guys, shooters like Foster leaking around that 3-point. I mean, that's how MSU plays. They look to go and they want to shove it down your throat and not let you get anything on offense. So it was just great to see, man.
And that's an excellent, take on what's been happening. And Tom Izzo just echoed those things even earlier today. And we'll share some of that in a moment. But they're one of the only teams in college basketball where everybody hits the defensive glass. You got guards going in and rebound. Even Foster Lawyer in the Duke game ended up getting some rebounds. And that's another conversation with itself. So I think what people have to be reminded of that Michigan State over time in the Tom Izzo era has gotten this reputation for being a tough team. And it's easy to look past that. But here in this time of COVID and all this uncertainty, when you have teams that have consistency, that have consistency with their program, consistency with their coaches, you get to see that. And I think the longer Coach Izzo coach and whatever little magic dust he's sprinkling to keep him relevant, we talk about this all the time, offline and off, and online and off, it's really working for him. So let's fast forward to the Duke game. And I will say, out of his respect for Coach Mike Bray at Notre Dame, he really didn't own that whole we're up 28 points thing. He said he didn't feel that he should have been up 28 points on a Notre Dame team. But I think that was just him being respectful to his longtime coaching buddy, Mike Bray. But no, they was giving him that business, man, all the way around. So what I'm going to do is we're going to fast forward to Duke. And what I'll do is play some of his comments after the Duke game, which I think many could consider a little emotional, considering his time Izzo. And then we can kind of break that down. That good for you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. Here we go. And again, shout out to the Streets of Talking Podcast Network. You got Don Houston, Clarence Babor. You can hear us at thestreetsoftalking.com, at www.streetsoftalking.com. And you can hear us on Saturdays and Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But here's Coach Izzo.
Our next question comes from Lindsey Huddleston.
Yeah, Coach, I know everyone wants to congratulate you on that first win inside Cameron, and they wish they can be there. Yesterday we talked about the NBA scouts tuning in. You think they were impressed tonight?
Well, I think Aaron Henry showed a lot. I mean, he's 7 for 21, and you're going to say that wasn't too good. But, what he's starting to show is ability to get in the paint, his ability to handle the ball. I mean, we rode him, like I said, like a horse. I don't know how many minutes he played. It had to be 36, 37 minutes. And he had to guard. He had to play the point. He had to kick it up against pressure some. He had to make all those tough plays, get in the paint. We did a lot of things. I mean, I'm so proud of him because, he came back, and I told you guys, I told him, I don't want a guy in here halfway. There's no such thing as being half, you know what? And so he wasn't half. He was all in. He wants to get better. And, he's learning. He's learning more every day, and I'm learning too. And I think there's getting to be an enormous trust. It's kind of funny what we all been through, but I love the way he responded, and I'm really proud of him.
Great. All right, thank you.
Welcome.
If you notice the latter part of his comments, he talks about, what they've been through. And if you recall, a few years ago, there was this big national story about, him and how he was going after Aaron Henry. And it brought up this whole discussion about coaching millennials. And to be totally candid and transparent, the origin of the relationship between Tom Izzo and I, though I've known him for several years, but the origin of our professional relationship goes back to that topic right there, which is coaching a millennial athlete. And the fact that he's had success for so many years with being a hard-nosed type coach, right, Terry? Up in your face. And he's the last of the Mohicans, if you will, as far as coaches who coach like that. So the funny thing is that Coach Izzo and I have this ongoing dialogue about that. And it's so funny. You don't hear it in this clip. But right then I posed my question. About 15 minutes later, he's answering the question. And he goes, ain't that right, Lindsay? These millennials. So it's like, that's what we talk about. But it's Aaron Henry has been the linchpin of that story because you go from what happened several years ago, his freshman year, all this national attention, then you have him being a leader on the team and saying some excellent things that we'll talk about another time as far as him and Coach Izzo being able to connect and really see things the same way. And it's a great story in the end because it's almost like it's a story of redemption for Tom Izzo. And he kind of talks like that, saying, you know what, y'all got on me about how I coached him. And it brought up this big national debate of how you coach these players. He said, but look at the result, et cetera, et cetera. And the last thing I'll say about that, he often said, I talked to his dad afterwards. He said, I called Aaron's dad after that incident several years ago. And the dad said, what are you calling me for? He said, well, I'm calling about everything that happened. He said, man, why are you calling me about that? So if that gave you the answer as far as how his father felt, basically the people who really mattered, Aaron took nothing from it. His dad took nothing from it. And Coach Izzo is continuing his Hall of Fame career with that. So I thought that was interesting. What's your take?
No, that's how it should be. I mean, those are the only people that matter. Media doesn't matter. I mean, other teammates maybe, but I mean, it's all about, the perennial support and how he felt. So I think that's right on. But I think another player in the past that has had to deal with that is Denzel Valentine. I mean, him and Coach Izzo always go back and forth, catching him on camera. Valentine will make a crazy play, then not get back on defense, and Izzo over there screaming. And I mean, that's another example where I remember like what Denzel and Izzo going back and forth about that. But I mean, that's right on the money. I mean, what I take away from this, I mean, it's like a Cassius effect. I mean, Cassius, again, a great leader. Tillman, a great leader. So like a Cash and Tillman effect, I would say. Because, I mean, you got Henry being a great leader, doing everything. I mean, he's their everything guy. Josh being the veteran, kind of letting people know what goes on at MSU, how to play, how to hold themselves as a professional, even though they're amateurs right now. Rocket being that young guy, but still having that leader and that dog mentality to lead them and push them in the game. And then we see Gabe Brown. I mean, I was watching your clip on Facebook, and Malik Hall was talking about his Get Up Shots crew. I mean, just like how you posted, he's shooting, staying in the gym even after a win, shooting until they say, hey, man, you got to go. I got to go back to the dorm. I mean, he's still working.
Turn the lights off in here, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's still working. I mean, you just see everybody constantly working. Julius Marble II had a great game. I mean, he shot 5 for 5. I mean, he's playing great.
And it
so,
was
I mean,
interesting. in the comments about Julius, I'm going to play a clip for Aaron in a second. It's interesting. In the comments about Julius, you know, they asked, did they expect that from him? Asking Coach Izzo that. And Coach Izzo said, yeah, because they have been working on it all the time. And I think he's a great example of someone you got to stay in there. Let me see if I could share with us the clip from Aaron Henry post game. So let's see what we got.
Season
Go to Lindsey Huddleston.
Aaron, congratulations on the win. We did not know you would be making your coaching debut tonight. Can you talk about what it was like being on the sideline and just really being part of that coaching staff and helping your Spartans win tonight?
I played in some some big games, some tough games here. I've won some championships here, but you know, the most important thing was, you know, I can be on the same side with Coach Izzo. You know, I felt like we were in tune a whole bunch. He was listening to me. I was listening to him. And even his vision on the court and what he sees is not the same as ours. And that respect that he has for us on the court and what we see and how it returns to him, you know, I felt like I was his voice out there. And that was the most comfortable part for me. You know, I could be an extension of him on the court and it really gave our team some direction as well as some other players.
Well, outstanding. Thank you.
I mean, come on, Terry. You hear that, man? I mean, seriously, like, that is no joke. I mean, we talk about this big national flub that came and became like the biggest talking point. You know, are we going too far with college sports? What's going on? I mean, it became this big thing. And you listen to this guy talk, man. He's like, dude, it's like, but he's giving so many props to Coach Izzo, saying he respects what we see on the court. He respects our vision, and he's listening. And then if you look, even though we weren't in camera, and I was able to watch the TV closely, and Coach Izzo says it a million times over and over, a player-coach team is better than a coach-coach team. Well, you got Foster Lawyer, and I want us to have a moment to make sure we talk about Foster too. I got something to get off my chest on that. We have Foster Lawyer in there directing the huddle. I mean, the coaches are back. Foster's pointing. He's saying, this is it. And these guys are speaking like, this is the law. This is the rule. And you get the success when these guys go on the camera and win, you know?
Oh, yeah. And I think, you know, I saw a press conference about how, you know, Hauser was kind of getting into it, Izzo at time. And that's a coaching, you know, adjustment that he has to deal with, hearing from Coach Izzo's side and learning how to play in his system. And Henry was an advocate to help him get used to it. And I think it's just cool how somebody who, you know, has had those national headlines about, is he coaching Henry too hard? He doesn't know how Henry should be playing. And Henry's like, look, man, you got to hear, you got to see what coach is seeing. This is where he wants our team to go. But you can still have room for what you're saying, but still take the coaching, but then come at it respectfully and still allow him to see what you're going through. Because I would say right now, Izzo has been really accepting of how their play style. I mean, with Rocket and how he plays, Rocket plays a lot more free. And I love how he plays with the razzle dazzle and still playing tough on defense. I mean, he's doing a lot of hands gestures like, hey, let's lock in. Let's lock in on defense.
Come on, right.
I mean, you love seeing that from a young guy, a sophomore. And so, I mean, you just see it rubbing off. And I think Henry having that experience of like bumping into a Hall of Fame coach, then learning and being the Hall of Fame coach's voice on the court. I mean, this is an extreme transition for somebody like that that's trying to make it to the league.
And using the term trust over and over again. He keeps saying trust. He trusts us. So when you got that trust, if you I don't care if you yell at me. I know you trust me. It's like that's how you communicate. When you talk about, you know, it's almost like Izzo likes to be pushed. I've even heard coaches tell me they prefer that you push back. You know, he's this kind of guy. He's going to push you to see what you're going to do, what you're made of. And if that dog comes out, that's what he wants, because nobody knows March like he does. He's that guy that's going to be around there. I mean, I think they have 18 Final Four appearances. He had more Final Four appearances than any other 4 teams that was in the Champions Classic. Let's talk about Foster Lawyer for a second. And let me tell you something, man. It was one game. It was only one game, but it was a big game. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you say Duke was young and they played like this and that. You know, 9 times out of 10, people would have expected Duke to win that game, whether they were in Cameron or in the Breslin. I have changed my opinion of Foster Lawyer's ability to impact the game. Now, that wasn't a huge team like a West Virginia that I've seen where you got these big guards and, you know, the Gonzagas of the world. But Foster Lawyer did not hurt the Michigan State Spartans in any way. He went in there. He was a part of that defensive surge. He got 3 charges. 3 charges, man. I don't care what you say. He hit his open shot. He didn't turn over the ball, from what I understand. So even though his size may be considered a deficiency, the way this guy plays, man, I have in one game potentially become a Foster Loyer believer because believe me, there's so many critics out there about him, especially last year. But hell, with Cassius Winston's gone, you can't really complain too much. You got to look at Foster. And I think what this also shows us is, just think about it. Xavier Tillman's still supposed to be here, you know, if he would have stayed to his senior year. So imagine what that team would be like. So when you lose guys, you know, this is what you left with. And these same guys that you left with, as Coach Izzo said when I asked him the question when they were in post-game Notre Dame, I said, why are you coaching these guys so hard when you're up 28? He said, because they got to get better. He said, because some things will go down and the games keep going. So it's like when you kind of, you see where he gets it from. And I think it's so easy for us, Terry, to look at players and look at their athletic ability and say, oh, my man's a stud. He's a horse. He's a dog. He can ball. But if they can't do the right things at the right time, like jump stops on the jump, even Jay Billis talked about it when they played Duke. Too many floating jump shots that led to charges and things like that. So getting back to the fundamentals is important, but it just really gives me a greater level of respect for Tom Izzo on this program. And I'm really glad to see that he's seeing some benefit and some achievement at this point. I mean, dude, what he said on the last thing I'll say to this, and I'll defer back to you, what he said on the call with the media, he said, man, I kind of wish y'all were here with me, man. Like, this is the one time I wish y'all were here because he won in camera. And it was like, it was such a personal celebration because even Rocket Watts came back on. They're like, yeah, man, they asked Rocket, what was he saying to you guys in the huddle? He was like, oh, no, in the halftime. He said, oh, he kept cussing us out. He just kept cussing us out. You know? But Rocket even said, I didn't know it was the first time that we won it. We beat Duke at their crib, you know? So it was something huge. And I don't care what you say. Tom Izzo is on the high right now.
Yeah, and I think, the whole thing about what Foster, athletically, he may be at a shorthand, the most guards, but that's why I like the switch. I believe with Rocket starting instead of him. But I think Foster can give you solid minutes, just like he did with which what we wish he kind of did last year with Cassius a little bit. But Cassius was so good, it made any backup point guard look like, man, he just need a little bit more. But I mean, now that he stepped up vocally and like directing the huddle, like you said, and we see it on the court and on the bench, helping Rocket, helping other guys that coming in. I mean, he's like another coach on the floor. And just like how he would say Langford is, just like how Henry said he was. There's so many coaches on the floor. And I kind of said this on the Facebook post. There's so many leaders on this team. And that's going to help carry over to March Madness because when things go down and somebody may not be having a good game, say Henry's struggling a little bit, I can count on Gabe. I can count on Josh to come in and be like, hey, guys, let's pick it up. Like, we're not out. You know what I mean? I couldn't really say that from last year. When Cassius was kind of struggling, the team, man, I don't know. I mean, a lot of scouting reports have been saying, stop this guy. I mean, you can see that with stats and it's so balanced. I mean, everybody's popping off. Yeah, Hauser's probably killing everybody in rebounds, but everything else is still really balanced. I mean, you got to see that in the team that's competing in March. You know, everybody has to be able to contribute. We even see Marble contributing. I mean, a young guy, I think that's key. You see him, Hall's playing well. And then Foster, we need that, that veteran kind of backup point guard to come in and hold things down. So, I think this is a key. And I think that, establishing this and seeing the key balance of everybody playing hard and contributing is going to impact players like Max Christie and Imani Bates coming in, and all these other top recruits coming in to kind of keep that thing going. And it's going to be fun to see. I can't wait.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think I've kind of answered my own question because as I watch these other teams, for example, is it Trace Jackson Davis at Indiana, for example, son of Jeff Davis, NBA guy. I watched this guy, and you know how you, as a ball player, you can just be looking at the court, not looking at anything in particular, but then at least that's my approach as a sports psychology consultant. They say, what are you looking for? I said, I'm looking for what I need to see. And you see a guy like this, you're like, who is that? So my concern for Michigan State is that you got a lot of big teams out there. But what I have to realize is despite Michigan State giving off some size, in many cases, when you talk about a backcourt with like, Rocket and, Foster, for example, they're tough as hell, man. Like they talk about it all the time. Like, man, these Michigan State teams are physically tough. And I think every
every year.
year, and that's part of the DNA of any Tom Izzo team, and that's part of the culture of being about the weight room, being about being tough. And I'll tell you a quick story. NBA scout told me a few years ago about Tom Izzo. They said they were playing a game. I think it's the game against Texas, a couple years ago when Shaka Smart and his team, they were up at the half. And what happened is Tom went to his team. He said, light them up. Light them up. So they started fouling. To the point they started fouling so much that the refs had to be like, hey, man, y'all fouling too much. He said, we'll call it because we're not stopping. So and it got to the point where they fouled the guys so much, and it wasn't to their disadvantage for foul trouble, obviously, but they were fouling and so physical that the refs had to switch the way they refereed the game. They had to turn around and be like, man, look, if we call all these fouls, the game will never end. So they exerted their will, made it a more physical game, and you remember that was a game that Texas ended up losing. So Shaka Smart was up at the half, all big, but that physicality, I think it's easy for us to take it for granted because we're right here. We're stone throw away from the campus. You see it all the time, and with familiarity breeds contempt, but that's not the case. So with that, man, what I do want to do is leave the rest of the time we have, some 15, 20 so minutes that we have. Let's talk NBA, baby. We can start talking NBA, and this is not bubble talk. Yeah, man, you were hitting the breaking news out there talking about first LeBron James, this 2-year, $85 million contract, followed the next day by Anthony Davis, Supermax doing his max deal for $190 million, which I figured was going to happen. I didn't see any reason why Clutch Sports would not have have their business in order when it came to that. What do you think about those signings?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing of LeBron, he usually takes he always takes a 2-year deal with the player op, possibly, to keep his options open. But this year he decided not to do the player op. He did a decision where he just going to do the straight 2 years. And it's funny because the 2 years ends up being the 2022-2023 season where Bronny could possibly be in the NBA when he turns 18. So you never know. I mean, we can have a unite with, I think the first time a player and son play on the same team, that's going to be interesting. But we all knew Davis was going to come back. I mean, he was on that 1-year deal with with the Pelicans, and that was the whole thing. Like, do we trade him to Boston? Does Boston get him for a year? Then he leaves to end up going to LA. And so we knew he was going to opt out and get a huge paycheck, what he obviously deserves. So it was good to see those two, get their money. Because, I mean, they got a chance now with LeBron getting his money, AD getting his money, and bringing better pieces in to possibly go back-to-back. So I'm excited.
I mean, you go back to LeBron James being on the Sports Illustrated cover, as a high school player and what was expected of him. And he has met every expectation, no matter how you want to put it. And I think along with him having one of the highest IQs in basketball, he's an excellent businessman. So he's at a point where he said, look, let me shake up the industry, shake up the establishment. I'm going to put my man on, Randy Mims, Ron Paul to be my guy. He got his experience, and we can get this money right. And so if you look on your screen, you're looking at the number $435 million. $500 million, man, is what this young brother has made playing basketball. And we ain't talking about other. That's basketball money. Those them Shaquille O'Neal checks that check wasn't even cash. You hear the story about Shaquille O'Neal that they had to call him one day and say, man, what's going on? You need to cash some checks. Like you sitting on so many checks. So more than me just being impressed with LeBron as an athlete, trendsetter, being unapologetically Black. I mean, this man is about his business. And, had he, and this is kind of off topic, but I think it's important for what we talk about here, had he listened to what everybody was telling him instead of listening to himself, where would he be right now? I mean, he's made the best decisions of his life by betting on himself. And I think there's something to be said about that. When he got rid of Leon Rose, and this is no knock on Leon Rose, who was his agent early on, but when he left and everyone was criticizing him for being with his posse, as Phil Jackson so inappropriately stated years ago. But that's been the best deal. I mean, tell me who could have worked a better deal, and I love the fact that it's Clutch and it's, Rich Paul, who also represents the Ben Simmons, the ADs, as we know, Miles Bridges and, KCP, a host of other individuals, but it didn't have to go to some other Drew Rosenhaus, big, name agent, and they have to go to, David Faulkner, some big agent, some white guy. This is all in the family. And I think it's an amazing thing, man. I'm really happy for them and what they're doing. And I ain't no LeBron hater, man. Get your bag up, handle your business. Because if he didn't have the influence that he has, man, he wouldn't be able to do that. He is influencing the league. The league is not influencing him.
Right.
And the last thing, they want that Bronny LeBron show.
Yeah.
If they'll put the Ball brothers, and not to say they don't deserve it in the NBA, you think they wouldn't want to run and do the Bronny show? Now the question becomes, do they want Bronny on a team that's do they want him on a team together? Or do they want him on a team where they got to play against each other? I mean, you got to think about from a marketing standpoint, what's most profitable, and I bet you that's the route they end up going.
Yeah, I think, the whole thing with LeBron, I mean, as I was hinting before, I mean, usually he takes like a pay cut to try and get other players there and try to get, some people were talking about, why didn't he take a pay cut and try to get another superstar there? It's like, why? I mean, they won with what they have. I mean, AD gonna get his money. We know that. LeBron, like, I'm gonna cash it on mine. We got great role players. We got the 6th man of the year with Trez, and then we got the runner-up with Schroeder coming in. And then, we signed KCP back, a solid contributor. We got Marc Gasol coming in. What LeBron said, he has his Defensive Player of the Year trophy at his house, so he probably gonna get on him about that. But I mean, they got some solid people, man, coming in to bring them back in contention. I mean, they replaced Howard, I think, with they replaced Howard. I would say they replaced McGee with Gasol. And I would say they replaced Trez with Howard, with that same mentality. And then Rondo will obviously be with Schroeder. So I believe that they got a veteran Gasol and, some young guys with Trez and Schroeder to kind of bring that energy up and keep them playing off the bench if Schroeder doesn't start.
The one thing about those changes in trades, the one thing that concerns me about Schroeder is this. The talk of him talking about I don't want to come off the bench, and the fact that how much will you really miss that playoff Rondo mentality? Someone that has been there and can handle it, especially at the point guard. That's my one concern if that becomes an issue. But you got a player like LeBron James who he can run a point if it comes down to it. And maybe that's Schroeder just talking, but I'm sure he's gonna get in on it, get it together. With the remaining time that we have, man, let's talk about this NBA schedule and this Christmas schedule. You were great enough to send me some information, and we'll see if we can share that as well. Again, shout out to the Streets is Talking Podcast Network, Don Houston, as well as Clarence Babor, my guy Sumo. But right here, if this is correct, we got on Christmas Day, the Pelicans at Heat, Warriors and the Bucks, Nets and the Celtics, Mavericks and the Lakers. Is that correct? Is Mavericks and the Lakers?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Clippers and the Nuggets. So let's go through each of these. Tell me what you think about these matchups. And dude, why did they not? What's up with these matchups? Like, why did they do the Lakers and the Heat again? Why not? I can see the Celtics and the Nets, but man, I think they missed it on some of these, man. Like they kind of hung back a little bit.
I think they're leaving the best point guard in the league out. Where Damian Lillard at? Where the Blazers at, man? I mean, I'm a little disappointed about that. I mean, I feel like the Pelicans, who haven't made the playoffs in 2 years. I mean, everybody want to see Zion. I know. Zion Williamson. They want to see him play on Christmas Day, and all that talk. But, I mean, come on, man. Give Dame some shine. But, I understand it a little bit, with Brooklyn playing the Celtics. I like that matchup a little bit. Kyrie going against his buddies. I would like to see that Heat and Bucks a little bit more. I would rather see the Pelicans and Warriors play and Heat and Bucks play each other. I think that's going to be a good one. And the one at the end, man, that's going to have some little heat to it. I mean, Marcus Morris was talking a little chippy on Twitter today and on his little press conference talking about, everybody knew we was the better team. Then why didn't you win one more game to put y'all to the next round? Come on. It's one of the things where it's like, come on.
Oh, he said we were the better team?
He said y'all know we was the better team. Come on,
who says that? You don't say that after you get sent home.
So it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a high flashy Murray. He played with a chip on his shoulder always. So I think the key games is gonna be really good. I think it's gonna be that Nets and Celtics, Tatum versus Kyrie. And I think that Clips and Nuggets game gonna be good too. I think those are the two that's gonna be, that's gonna probably get the most attention because how good the game's gonna be. But I think everybody's gonna want to watch LeBron and Luka. But I think the Lakers are gonna be too much for that.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if it was you or someone else shared with me that there was supposed to be talk. I mean, this is all just speculation that LeBron was going to start his own line of shoes under Nike and sign Luka.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But I'll go back through these, man. I'm a Zion fan, but the reality is that we're not going to see, in my opinion, the best of Zion until the future. It definitely won't be this game. I mean, Zion even talked about how he was afraid as a rookie, like all rookies are, making a mistake. And trying to get healthy, trying to get to a playing size weight that's going to be comparable for a long-term NBA career, which is going to be an anomaly for him because he's such a big dude. I got a buddy of mine, he was watching a game last season in the bubble with his girlfriend who's not a basketball person, and she saw Zion, and she said, "Oh my God, he's so big. He's so big." And he said, "Baby, that man can jump more than anybody in there." So that's interesting. And shout out to Jimmy Butler. Actually, Coach Izzo was just making a reference saying how he watches Jimmy Butler and he likes his game. He tried to liken Aaron Henry to a poor man's version of a Jimmy Butler. And that's not a slight to Aaron Henry at all. But, you see what I'm saying with that. That Warriors-Bucks, man, I just don't know what Warrior team is going to be here this season. I don't care what you say. That loss of Klay Thompson with going down with the ACL injury. Was it ACL or Achilles?
I believe it was Klay Thompson with the Achilles. Yep. Thompson with the Achilles. Yep.
Okay.
He had the ACL, then he had the Achilles. Yep.
Thank you very much. So going down with that, I don't care what you say. That took the wind out of the Warriors' sail. I don't care what you say, man. That's like having a tough game and you fight all game and you go to overtime and you just can't believe that you're in overtime and you end up losing. I don't care what you say, man. I know they're bringing in James Wiseman. I know they got which boy Kelly Oubre made his way over there, whatever now. But man, I'm not feeling nothing. And in my personal view, I think the Warriors' time is done. And that's just how I feel. I just don't see them being that competitive with this new team that's coming together. No matter how hard Steph tries to push it, no matter how different he braid his hair, it don't even matter. It's just that it's not changing. That Nets and Celtics, I can see why they want to say, hey, let's bring Kyrie back to his other team. And I think on his face, that's probably going to be the most solid game, meaning that there's a chance for competition to really see. Now, the question is, how much are the Nets going to roll out what they have? Are they going to be managing KD's minutes? I mean, this guy was just talking about he had to learn how to walk. Right. So are we going to really see that kind of showing? So that might be one of those in-name only type games. That Mavericks and Lakers, man, I mean, that's big, but, it'd be interesting to see with those matchups. I mean, I think they're using that to promote, their future star in Luka Doncic, and that also impacts the international crowd too. Probably why that game is being played at 8, so you can get more viewership. Then lastly, that Clippers and Nuggets, man, it's a nasty taste in the mouth of the Clippers right now, man. This whole thing has been leaked by the Athletics, talking about the chemistry issues they were having. You always have some kind of prima donna experience, but it was like Kawhi living 3 hours away. Sometimes he'd be so late, couldn't even catch the flight. The flight would be late. Then even something about dealing with the logistics of the Staples Center, especially when they were, double headers, like a Kings hockey game and then like a Clipper game, that female staff could not get access to the female locker room because Kawhi was using that for his own personal prep space. And, so it was that kind of stuff that was getting around, man. It's like, Sweet Lou and the Wings. It's like all this stuff now. Can Ty Lue come in, even though he was already right there with that, and change that culture? I don't know. I just don't see it happening. The Nuggets, man, I think the Nuggets got the most to prove, man. They just really out here to show people, like, we weren't a fluke in the bubble. We're here to stay, and we're here to play. So it'll be something to see. And actually, the time is to be determined. I won't be able to catch all those games because on Christmas Day, Michigan State plays Wisconsin. They're going to be
that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, and Wisconsin at the last, Coach Guard has these guys. I think they were ranked like number 4 in the country right now. So that is going to be big. So definitely will give some representation to the NBA, but also on Christmas Day, I'll give some representation to the Michigan State Spartans. But man, how fortunate are we, man? I mean, when we started this podcast, shout out to Coach Orlando Watkins for being so supportive and helping us. When we started this podcast, man, everything was just about speculation and the mental part. And now we have these things happening and have these things unfold. And, you know, things are starting out to be great. You got, you know, new coach in Mel Tucker at Michigan State who's surprising people with winning games that they don't think he's supposed to win. You got Michigan State back at it with a very thoughtful Tom Izzo dealing with, you know, this new team that he has. And then we got this NBA that I don't care who you were, you know, if you was happy to see LeBron win or not, you know, LeBron is doing this thing and he's really cementing a legacy with the NBA. When you talk about 20 going on 20 seasons, $85 million 2-year contract, able to sign a max deal with, you know, AD for some long-term benefit. And if we stick around long enough, we might end up seeing this guy play with his son. And for the record, Bronny looking like a cyborg out here now, man. You see Bronny, man? Like, you see, like somebody said after Bronny got caught smoking, LeBron must have smacked 10 years into him. You know what I'm saying? Out there, sitting there like, dude, but what would you expect? You know, this guy, part of LeBron's legacy, and I'll defer to you, part of LeBron's legacy is making sure that my kids is solid out here, because y'all not gonna talk about my kid like you was talking about Jeffrey Jordan and Michael Jordan kids when it comes to basketball. I think it's gonna be a different story.
Right. I mean, you know, I'm excited for everything to come back, like as you mentioned, with speculation and you know, thinking about what could happen, predicting are we gonna have a season, and you know, we have everything being here and everything's being played out, and so we get to just sit back, chill, analyze, and you know, report back here and enjoy this this great moment of sports. Winter break is gonna have full of sports, college basketball, NBA starting up. You know, I don't think we're done with this NBA trading and off-season stuff yet. I mean, it's time.
What do you think about the John Wall, Russell Westbrook trade?
I think people keep throwing Russ under the bus. I think this is going to be a great time with Russ. I mean, Russ is really kind of a floor general in a way, like he was in OKC. He'll have a chance to do that now. I mean, being able to surround himself with shooters. Beal doesn't really need the ball that much as Harden did. Russ will be able to do, you know, pick and roll, drive in, kick the shooters, you know, like he did. But I think the Rockets, they had the shooters, but Harden needs the ball. And I don't know how much that really worked with him and John Wall, but I know John Wall and Boogie are great friends playing at Kentucky. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe Harden said he preferred, supposedly said he, according to Woj, but supposedly liked Wall more than Russ. So maybe there's something that he sees in that. But my question is, when are we going to start looking at Harden? Instead of just blaming other people like Chris Paul, D'Antoni, Russell Westbrook. I mean, everybody's leaving. Like, I'm glad my Blazers got Rocco Covington. He's going to be a great piece. It's like they're getting rid of everybody except for looking at the man that's supposed to be in charge of that franchise.
I mean, but going back to the lineup that we saw when we talk about, you know, the Pelicans versus the Heat, you know, it's the money. It's the money that's already invested. Like, dude, we got so much money invested. Speaking of the Rockets, I remember a story about a guy who played at USC, you know, made the team. And when it came down to the final cut, he got cut. And they're like, it wasn't that you couldn't play. They said these guys we got in front of them, we got more money invested in them.
Exactly.
So what do? You didn't put everything. Daryl Morey, put everything into that. So you can't do anything with him. So you got to build around that. I mean, I'm talking about getting rid of the coaches and all that stuff. I just think what I've learned in my mature years at this point with this game of basketball, there ain't no way around it, man. You got to have team basketball. One man cannot score, you know, the large percentage of your points and you win on a regular basis. Because what happens with James Harden when he gets into those tough playoff series where he's supposed to be, he doesn't bring it. And this ain't no knock on him. I'm not even trying to shut him down. But, I mean, what do you expect? You think this guy's going to be at the same clip forever? And let's be honest, he ain't Kobe. Rest in peace to the late great. He ain't Kobe. It ain't, you know, so you can't be like, well, you know, Kobe did it, but that's the key. It was Kobe. You know,
him and Giannis had that same thing, man. Not everybody comes to play in the regular season like they would in the playoffs, 4 games or however games you may play straight. I mean, Giannis, you know, he back-to-back MVP, blowing through people through the regular season. But come playoff time, man, him and Harden are in that kind of a mental hurdle right now. Where are they gonna get over and have that same kind of play at the high level? Harden scoring 30, 40. Maybe even 60. Giannis getting all these crazy numbers, slashing through. I mean, the Heat basically made a wall and was like, you got to shoot. And then Harden, like, I mean, basically the Thunder are like, Harden going to shoot him out of the game. Him and Westbrook going to shoot him out of the game.
Yeah, let him shoot. Let me ask you this
Exactly.
question as we get ready to wrap up. We've had a great day. We've covered everything we talked about, and we're getting close to the hour mark. Let me ask you this, somewhat of a trivia question. Do you think LeBron James will get 2 or maybe even 3 more rings before Harden or Giannis get 1? Will LeBron get 2 or maybe 3 more rings before, James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo get 1?
I say for sure for Harden, and I see him getting 2 or 3 more before Giannis. I do. If Giannis,
wait. So wait a minute. You said to start this off for sure for Harden, like no bet.
Harden,
So
no way. I say no Harden. Giannis. I mean, if Giannis, the Bucks have been making moves, but I think Giannis needs to leave and kind of grow somewhere else. I think his time is done. I mean, I think he's kind of leaning that way, but he's still interested on the moves they're making.
Because if you sign a max deal, that's not good.
I think his chances with the Heat are probably none now with Bam getting that max deal down there. So, trying to get that max down there. But I mean, I just see, man, the things that the Lakers are doing. I just see that lining up to get maybe 2 more in that little stretch before. I see LeBron getting 2 more, no matter what. I see him getting 2 more.
He's laser focused on it. Now he's like, dude, this is all about legacy. And then with Giannis, man, and I'm a huge fan of Giannis in this game, man. It just may be he picked the wrong time, and it always happens like that. You had the Karl Malones who are around, the Charles Barkley's who are around.
Yep.
Where it's like he picked the wrong time, and it's not that he had a choice, but you're right. I think that he should not get caught up with any blind loyalty in the NBA. He better figure out a plan that he can go and do something, make something. And I think it's more likely he's got to go somewhere else before you can bring somebody else. Like they were trying to do one deal with was it Bogdanovich or whatnot? Or I forget.
Yeah.
And that blew up or whatnot. So it's like, and then is Milwaukee a destination? I don't care what you say, dog. I don't care what you say. Nope. If I'm gonna get down and ready to be all in, I'd rather be in LA than in
Miami,
Wisconsin.
Man, I'm going to Miami.
Yeah, I mean, even Texas, somewhere down there. I mean, compared to all this. Well, here's the thing, man. We're going to be coming close to the hour-long mark. This was a great show, and I want to thank you, Terry, for always being proactive and helping us get the show out there. Again, you did it again. You brought the meat, and I brought the side dishes, and it was great. I want to thank Coach Orlando Watkins, who's always right there with us, keeping us connected, whether he's working from home or anywhere in the state of Michigan. He's always finding some Wi-Fi to keep us connected, man. We're having a great time here. So with that, I'm going to get ready to wrap up. Probably next week, we talk a little bit more about an organization called the College Basketball Parents Association, the CBPA. They just had a huge press conference the other day with someone who I think very highly of, had the opportunity to share a stage with Clark Kellogg. And this is an organization that they're trying to get parents who are the parents of college basketball players on every level. I mean, you have the parents of Jalen Suggs involved in this. Jalen Johnson at Duke is involved. My guy Ramsey dealing with Jalen Hardy, who's outstanding player out west. And they're from Detroit. Got love for them, as well as a number of other players. My guy Deion Harmon, who's his son Harmon is at Oklahoma State playing ball. They were involved with the USA basketball family. So that'd be another thing that we'll talk about here going forward. But again, I want to thank you, Terry. And again, thank you, Coach Watkins. And with that, we're going to sign off. And again, shout out to the Streets Are Watching Podcast Network, The Streets Are Talking Podcast Network at www.streetsartalking.com. Hear us Saturday and Sunday, 12 Eastern time. So with that, see you guys next time, and thank you guys for being great.